So now let's talk about the mean, both the standard mean that we deal with the most often, as well as what's called a weighted mean. So most people know the mean as adding everything up and dividing by the number of things we have. Let's look at what that looks like in symbols. Here's what it looks like in symbols. So the X bar, that's what we use to denote our mean. This capital letters, Greek letter sigma, means sum. It means add everything up. The xi are our data values, so the top of the fraction says add up all of the data values. And then n is the number of things that we have. So here's our formula for the mean. So let's suppose we have these 7 values right here and we want to find the mean. Then our first step is to actually add them up, and then we want to divide by the number of things that we have, which is 7. So here we go. I've set it up to where we add everything up and divide by 7. When we add up all of these numbers, we get 51. So now we have 51 divided by 7. And once we actually do that division, we have about 7.3. So for the set of our numbers, our mean would be 7.3. As far as rounding goes, the general rule is to round to one more decimal place than your data. So in this case, our data has 0 decimal places, so we round to one more to get 1 decimal place. Here's another example. Let's suppose these are your grades in a course of 58, 67, 60, 84, 93, 98, and 100. You know you want at least a B, so we want to determine what your grade actually is to see if you have that B. So we'll start by adding them up and dividing by the number of things we have, which in this case we once again have 7. So here we go, we add them up, divide by 7. Once we add up that entire top, we get 560. And then dividing by 7 gives us 80. So in this case, we do have the 80 that we need to get our grade. So now let's discuss the weighted mean. The idea of a weighted mean is that not everything is of equal importance. We want some things to count more in our average than others. These are used quite commonly in grade calculations for a class as well as GPA calculations. In a class, the final exam is going to be worth more than a single homework assignment, so it would be weighted more. So for this, we start with our weights, W1, W2, etc. to Wn. So these says how much each data point is worth. And here's our formula. So once again, X bar is the mean. The top of the fraction is we multiply the data value by how much it's worth, and then we add up all of those. And instead of dividing by the number of things we have, we divide by the sum of the weights. So let's look at a couple of examples. So let's suppose these are our grades for a class, and the numbers in parentheses on the right is how much it's worth. So we have a 92% on homework, which counts for 25%, 100 on participation, which counts for 15%. Our exams are 10% each, and we scored 84, 79, 76. We have an 87 on the final worth 15% and a 90 on the project worth 15%. So the first step is to multiply each data value by its weight. So we'll do 92 times 0.25. We then add in the 100 times its weight, 0.15. Next, we'll multiply each of our exams by 0.1. Our final exam, the 87, by 0.15. And finally, we have a 90 on the project, so we'll multiply 90 times 0.15. Order of operations says we should start with our multiplication, so let's go ahead and do out all of these multiplications. And this is what we have. And then our final step will be to actually add all of these numbers up. When we do, we get 88.45, so this is our final exam in this course, 88.45. Technically, we do need to divide by the sum of the weights, but in this case, the weights are 100% or 1, so there's no point in dividing by 1.